If you think about what's fueling the AI movement, it's all based on data. So having lots of conversations right now, because every single entity in this room, whether you're a business, nonprofit organization, or an individual, you are technically an AI entity and you are a data company at the same time.
As we talk about exponential technology, and this ties into what Mario said, as long as it's human-centric, as long as we are owning that technology, we'll be okay.
When we think about well-being and flourishing and thriving, not everybody has the access to those opportunities to do so. So how do we pay attention to that so that there isn't this assumption that one size fits all? When we're talking about being humane, we're talking about equity and justice, and how do we build and proactively enable that to happen.
AI is not there to replace the human, but to augment the skills. Currently there's huge fear, the narrative that AI is much more powerful and it knows everything and it can do things at a much faster pace, so it's going to replace workers. Yes, there'll be lots of changes in terms of what kind of roles we are going to be doing. There'll be new jobs created.
I don't think you can talk about modern mental health without talking about our media diet. We spend on average 7 hours a day on our devices, and in America it's about 13 hours a day with media. To put that in proportion, that means that every single adult is spending as much time with media as they would studying for about 35 college degrees. And what do you have to show for how that's affecting you and changing your mind, and also showing who you are and who you become?
Every single AI discussion we're having in the past 18 months is exactly about how humanity and AI will coexist. Are we going to be more like Star Trek when we grow up, or are we going to be more like Mad Max? Actually, the actions we take here today, the actions we take here in the present will determine that.
Are we so worried about being modern that we're forgetting to be meaningful? The data is trying to tell us that we as a society, when talking about well-being, we are siloed.
Almost half of Gen Zennials report feeling so stressed that they can't function. Are we going to keep letting all these external things around us steer our ship, or are we going to steer it ourselves? We need to be thinking about this the same way we did the other epidemics.
Big picture, statistically worldwide, people with a greater commitment to spirituality or religion do have better well-being in many respects. Positive emotions, were you happy, a sense of purpose, your engagement with the community, and social connections.
We're really all about elevating faith and culture for a couple of reasons. One is we so often talk about how religion is always in the room, but often not at the table. So people who are religious or spiritual or identify with a religion don't feel like they can bring that whole self to every aspect of their life, whether that's in the workplace, whether that's in their community involvement. They feel like maybe that's the one part of me that I just need to not talk about.
So if you put people and the wellness and engagement of your team at the front of your strategy, as we have, you're continually on the lookout for how do I drive employee wellness, health, engagement levels so that people can bring not only their whole selves to work, but their best selves to work.
Once we can leverage that power of the private sector as reducing the harm areas where they do exist, knowing where they exist is probably the first thing, and then where they can be driving positive impact.
You're talking about all of the different spiritualities that are emerging now in a godless world. And we have no idea what effect those spiritualities have on health.
So there's lots of these challenges. We all should be data-driven. That's the one I'm going to turn over to Jeremy to talk about the data. But as we've heard in the last presentation and beyond, we moved from data to information to knowledge to wisdom.
When I asked them what are the biggest challenges to the new ways of working, hybrid and remote work, it was all social. Less collaboration, less cross-functional work, impaired working relationships.
I think one of the things that we firmly believe in is that in every human being there is the innate capacity to find their own selves and meaningful relationships with each other. And so whether we are aware of it, whether we tap into it, whether we connect with it, and it's very often is the separation between our own inner selves and the lives that we end up leading that ends up creating a lot of the anxiety and other issues.
I come from a country which is perhaps today the world's largest, 1.4 billion people. If we need to look at well-being for adolescents and make it work for them, we need to find strategies which will work at the large scale.
We realize that we need to co-design programs with them. So we had to come together with the young people and come up with a framework of decentralized cities for the young people.
So one of the things that we're trying to illustrate with the different stories is how the different domains of intervention, whether that's grounded in the arts and education, whether it's grounded in mental health policies and engagement, or whether it's in youth activism, can come together to create more compelling or more powerful interventions.
Funding youth initiatives, initiatives that are creative ideas that are coming from the young people themselves is really critical, because when you fund initiatives that are youth-led, you are empowering them in their own communities to be their own voices.